you guys actually start by introducing yourselves?
Yeah.
Because not everybody knows who's behind those lovely figures.
I think everyone knows Sam. But
So I'm Sam Smith. I'm the design manager on the Star Wars business.
absolutely. My name's Patrick Schneider. I'm the senior brand manager for our Star Wars fan business.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. So as you know, we are Sylvain and Thibaut, and we have a love question for you guys because I believe that not everybody, especially in France, we don't have, I guess, that much of a toy culture, so we don't really know how they're made, for example.
That's all changing.
yeah. Well, thanks to this interview, probably.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you can actually try to explain to us how, basically, what is the process behind those figures, how they're made, what are the steps, and
So Star Wars product is very much like traditional toy. The biggest thing that it introduces is a partnership with a licensor. So in terms of, do you want me to focus on like a Black Series figure, or
yeah, we can do that, or
okay,
any kind of figure you work.
So I mean, the biggest thing that we work on internally is really kind of establishing the characters that we want to do in the line. Okay. So historically, I'd say we work between 12 to 18 months out from when a figure is actually going to hit shelves. In terms of conceptualizing the characters that we bring into the line. And then it really just becomes gathering as much reference as we need for the character itself to really be able to kind of establish our sculpt stage. It's taking into consideration, the articulation cuts that we're going to make into the figure that are really going to offer the most compelling poses that we'd want. So for example, with our Jedi figures, we're doing a lot more use of like butterfly valves to the upper torso, everything in terms of wrist articulation, gestures of hands, expressions of faces, and then as we get into things like elbows and knees, what are those really iconic poses that we'll want out of the character. So as we begin our sculpt kickoff, again, we're establishing as much reference as we can. We work really closely with Lucasfilm. They've been phenomenal partners for us where, again, we get full costume turns. In some cases, we work from digital sculpted files from ILM, as well as props from the film. And we also build out really what we want is sort of those signature robust accessories that are going to help to really deliver the most meaningful elements to the character, whether that's cloaks or soft goods. Jedi characters, we need to wield lightsabers. With some of the more recent figures we've been doing, we have a lot of these great miniature kind of companion droids. So with Rey, we had the opportunity to introduce Dio. With Cal, we had the ability to introduce his new hero droid for the game, which was great.
Babu Frick with 3PO.
Babu Frick, oh, incredible! He's 7 points of articulation, and he's under an inch tall. He's definitely one that we enjoy. But as we develop a character for the Black Series, again, it's accuracy is a huge part of that. It's researching the actor or actress that portrays the character so that we ensure that their height is appropriately referenced, figuring out kind of the expressions that we want to do. And so on more of the more exploratory figures that we do, whether it's like bringing a character from publishing and making it realization, or from animated where, we're doing a character from the Clone Wars or from Rebels, and again, it's the Black Series, the stylization is theatrical. So to bring something like an animated character to Star Wars, it's like, if this was a character that was created by like the ILM like prop shop, how would they make this alien? And so much of that is already established for us because we have over 40 years of entertainment. So we know what lots of these species that get sort of borrowed and reused are sort of able to look like in a realistic form. Once we, again, sort of establish that sculpt, it's a continuous back and forth approval process with Lucasfilm. We work hand in hand with one another, again, dialing that in to be the best representation of the character. We do an in-house kind of paint breakdown of the character in terms of the colors that we'll use for costumes. And then we sort of, once we feel we have the best representation of the character, we actually shift that over to the manufacturing side, where all the manufacturing comes together with, right now, our partners in Hong Kong and China. So that's
quite a journey.
It has a huge journey. So again, like 12 to 18 months, depending on the character complexity, and again, the the reference that has to be generated for a lot of the newer characters. You know, we're working with from concept art and then moving to stages as those physical props are being generated for the film.
Okay.
So,
and you mentioned that you guys are selecting the characters, not Lucasfilm.
So it's definitely a partnership, yeah.
Exactly.
So they obviously have all the insights into, you know, more than we do into the new entertainment, into what kind of characters will be big, and so they definitely tell us kind of which would be good ideas to focus on. We also, Sam's team gets assets, and kind of they put a toyetic eye to that, kind of which ones look cool, even though which one might be the next Hammerhead or Yak Face, even though they might not be huge characters in the entertainment. And then, you know, we certainly sprinkle in classic characters throughout the line, and that's where we kind of rely more on our research and our insights to tell us which characters fans want, even if they're not new entertainment.
Yeah, okay. And how about those characters that you feel maybe that they're probably not as big as, I don't know, Kylo Ren or Rey, but like, for example, you mentioned this small droid, like a PD-1, I think he is called, right?
Yeah.
And so it looks like a toy, basically. So I guess you immediately have some kind of, you know, it's like falling in love with certain characters and giving them some spotlight or something like that.
Yeah, and it's, you know, where they're so tied to that character in terms of being that companion piece. It's probably unlikely that they would have any other way of getting into the Black Series line. Like, we wouldn't put B2 on his own card back or in his own box, but again, sort of the ability to be able to have that Black Series representation as sort of a companion accessory droid character. That was actually how we brought BB-8 into the line for the Black Series, was initially introducing him with our original Rey figure. Again, it's, you know, characters that start to get into a larger scale as we, you know, introduce things like Yoda and R2, where they're like these established characters within the lore, absolutely have their place on the line. But we've definitely leaned on those sort of pack-ins as a way of ensuring that they get to be a part of the line, because they're really tethered to that character.
Okay, and does it happen often that, for example, you want to go with this character, and over the course of the development you realize that maybe it's not as good as you think it should be in terms of prototypes? I guess you guys have also this exploration phase where you have a back and forth with a prototype toy or something like that.
I don't know that we necessarily cut due to complexity of creating the character. I'd say more than likely it's when we're making that character selection. If we went purely on aesthetic, we'd be like, oh, let's go with that alien, like this is going to be the coolest character, and it's like, it could very easily be a very tertiary character that's in the background, or
Costello,
Zuvia, Sarko Plank, Goss Towers, the list goes on.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly, because Sam mentioned the development process is 12 to 18 months, like, you know, 18 months out from the movie, they're still very much in the process of making the movie, and things change. And so at 18 months out, you know, we have what we think are the right characters, but those things change, and by that point we're already too far down the line to shift course. Another interesting example of not a character that ended up being tertiary, but Jyn Erso from Rogue One. She's on all of our Black Series packaging as Sergeant Jyn Erso, and then in the movie she is not part of the military hierarchy at all, and so that was kind of a shift. So it's interesting, the toy collectors can actually, by comparing our toys to the final movies, can kind of get a glimpse into some of the changes that have happened throughout the movie process. So you can conclude Constable Zuvio was obviously originally intended to be more prominent in the movie.
He was Snoke, basically, right?
Oh, yeah. He is to Snoke as Jar Jar is to, That's what we'll see. Now we're seeing all these like Darth Jar Jar images. It's going to be Darth Zuvio 10 years in the future.
So can we expect a Darth Jar Jar in a Black Series figure at some point?
So
that's like one of the top three. You continually
absolutely. No. So obviously we've got some cool reveals today. I think we can safely say Darth Jar Jar is not one of them.
He's not one of today's reveals.
There's a lot of great stuff in the lore that we're excited to bring to the line. Not just like canon. Obviously we've done legend stuff in the past, and we're looking to mine that a little more kind of in the next 3 years when we don't have movie entertainment. So you know, we'll see about Darth Jar Jar, but not likely.
Maybe not the meme characters, not yet.
Exactly.
It's probably too early for that. And does it happen?
We got to get a Jar Jar first before we go to Darth Jar Jar.
That would help.
And did it ever happen that you actually influenced the movie itself by, I don't know, maybe realizing that, oh, this blaster should be, you know, I don't know, like should fit that way into the costume, or this droid needs to be, even for video games, because I don't know, if you put BD on the Jedi shoulder, maybe you realize, oh, okay, that would be cool, and they see the prototype and they're like, oh, we will introduce this pose into the game, or something.
I would say, in terms of like, by the time we're at a stage of finalizing more of that figure, usually we've established as much of that as we can, but you know, again, with that partnership with Lucasfilm, they do an amazing job of really listening to us in terms of like, you know, looking for opportunities to make like a accessory more heroic, or really sort of raising its prominence in the film. I think there was one case where they actually added a character back into the movie for us in support of the product, which was with Solo. They did the Corellian speeder bike driver, the patrol trooper. And
just a glimpse.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just something. But it was such an awesome new trooper variant, and again, it was
pretty cool.
It was something we were certainly vested. We did it at multiple scales, and it was like, hey, this is a great new trooper design. It'd be a shame to you know, miss out on the opportunity.
And we certainly, again, we've got a great partnership. You know, coming into the new entertainment, you know, and they might have been planning this already, but we were like, it would be really great to get some new lightsaber form factors, because obviously those are very toyetic. We saw those in the new movie again. Yeah. I'm sure they were thinking of that already.
Credit for Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
I wasn't on the team at that point, so
it'd be great if we could have a cross guard.
And certainly there are some classic kind of Kenner toys that have brought into canon, so it's great synergies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what would you say to people who might feel like we have probably this conversation over some podcast that we're super excited for Sith troopers or the new trooper variant, and everybody's like, yeah, but it's not a trooper, you know? And to me, it feels like it's very Star Wars to have all those variants.
Oh, totally.
And I guess it gives you a lot of work as well, so it's good for both of us. But
I mean,
is it difficult sometimes to be, you know, this guy responsible for all those? I mean, sometimes people can be very vocal.
Is it hard being you, Sam?
I definitely love what I do, and in terms of the, you know, diversity of different trooper form factors, I'm a huge advocate for it, because it was something we always had in original Star Wars. You had classic stormtroopers, you had space troopers, snow troopers, you had scout troopers,
Imperial guards, AT-AT drivers, TIE fighter pilots,
starting to see these new forms where it's like you have these dedicated designations of like, these are the flame troopers, and so, you know, really influencing different nuances that still had a very common aesthetic that carried throughout them. And then with the introduction of the Sith Trooper, I was super excited for that. I didn't actually know that we had that name until like we were compiling the deck for a ComicCon, and then you know, to be able to reveal it as something, and then find out a little bit more about the story, and it really starts to you know, get us just as excited, because there's plenty of things that we do know about the movie beforehand, but anything that we don't is, you know, we're able to approach that as just Star Wars fans.
And on that topic, actually, do you ever feel like it's kind of hard to be, you know, like to know everything, not everything, but some things before everybody? It must be, you must be willing to, I don't know, talk about it to your friends or your family.
Oh, interesting, that aspect. No, I thought you were saying, like, as fans, is it, you know, tough to, like, go see the movies and not be kind of fully spoiler-free? I don't know. I always say, like, the best day of my professional life is when I got the plot download for Ep 7 and learned, you know, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen Ep 7, but learned about Kylo Ren, you know, doing what he did to Han Solo. And I remember I actually, like, cried out a little bit, but it was...
So
it's
you
just
have this type of details when you receive the, I don't know, like, briefs or...
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so they get, again, like Sam said, well, they have to give us a lot of stuff in order for us to make the toys. They give us to a certain point. So yeah, we always go into the movies and we're like, you know, what are we going to see? How close is it? It's usually pretty close, but there are always some surprises. In terms of not letting spoilers go, I do always kind of like, you know, check myself, and I'm like, okay, what's public and what's not? I usually just err on the side of, with friends and family, not talking about it much at all.
I end up speaking in code name way too much, where it's the character names actually come out, and I'm like, who is that?
Yeah. Who is the Mandalorian? I don't know. I haven't heard of him.
So you know his real name?
Yeah. Oh, no, so that is the name, yeah. He had a code name.
He did.
We could probably say it this one. I don't know.
His code name was Huck.
Huck.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
So
you heard it first here. And Star Wars is very, well known for having introduced a lot of technologies in the movie making aspect. Do you guys also rely on new technologies nowadays to create those figures? Because I guess they were not made like that 10 years ago.
Totally. The innovation that's been introduced into really the toy world, and especially with action figures, has changed dramatically over the last 10 years, I would say. We shifted over to a completely digital sculpting in like 2011, 2012. And so Black Series actually represented kind of a flagship for that, where every sculpt that was introduced into that line was completely digital. So from the original SDCC Boba Fett that was released in 2013, well through where we are today. That's been a huge progression, and he's again allowed us to access a level of detail that we've never been able to achieve, as well as just overall accuracy, portraits, and really being able to refine those so much before we actually output a physical product. The element that sort of was the straggler there was our deco process. So up until 2018, where we introduced photoreal, the process of applying paint really hadn't changed in about 40 years. So, efforts had definitely been done to refine and get details better and better, but it's still used very kind of archaic forms to actually bring those portraits to, I wouldn't call them to life, I'd call photoreal to life, but they were definitely an element of that was holding us back, which was part of the big push and challenge was, we invest all this work into these digital sculpts. How can we get our deco to this point as well? And that's ultimately what we found through photoreal. So again, being able to build out that portrait in a digital environment and then actually printing it onto the face versus having multiple stages of which something is hand applied drastically improved. So it's revolutionary for the figure line.
I imagine. I guess we're running out of time, but I have some somewhat jokey question for you guys. So I really wanted if you had to know if you had some favorite or least favorite, let's say, because I don't think you hate what you're doing, so it's probably just least favorite, but figures among the lines you guys are working on.
So I think my favorite, we've said this before, is the hyperreal Darth Vader. We launched our hyperreal line just a couple months ago. We're really excited about it. Basically, it's kind of the best ever figures that we've ever done. So Black Series is great, Vintage is great, but these get rid of those arm joints that break the fantasy. Interior skeleton, 8 inches high to unlock that technology. Best ever deco, soft goods, accessories we've done. So it's literally our best ever figure we've ever done. So
and it's going to be big, right? In the future, we're going to see this line expand, right?
So we've always said we want to keep it tight. We know that we've got our Vintage line, we have our Black Series line. If we did another line with 20 figures, that's a whole nother line that fans have to invest in. We want to keep this 1 or 2 figures a year, so it can be kind of the focal point of fans' collection and display rather than a whole new assortment. Exactly. So if you're a Black Series fan, go out and get a hyperreal Vader. You don't have to worry about it kind of blowing up into a big commitment. But yeah, it's the best ever figure we've done, so love that one. I don't know about a least favorite. I'll think about that while you're...
I kind of have one that I hated in the line and loved it when we re-released it. Probably with Yoda.
What a nice spin.
Yoda, or even better than Yoda. Actually, I have 3 that fall in this camp. Yoda,
Anakin,
the Emperor, and Jedi Luke.
Oh, there you go.
Where Jedi Luke was probably one of my least favorite characters in the line in terms of, from portrait to deco to just kind of he was not as aspirational as that character should have been, especially in sort of the cinematic, point in the film, and that's like as aspirational as Mark Hamill should be.
Pretty much so, yes.
And it was just like, and so the deco, the portrait was really muddy. Nothing really did justice for that figure. The same with the Emperor, where again the figure couldn't sit, and that was really like such an iconic part of him. So both of those, were able to see a huge update, and I think Yoda, we were able to correct as part of the archive because we were really just fixing the deco. But for the Emperor and for Luke, they both really required a few more components to be able to bring those to life. So for Luke, it was about doing an all-new portrait with the separate hair, with a new tunic, with the 2 flesh hands and appropriate accessories and new soft goods, which totally transformed that figure. And then for the Emperor, again, doing a new soft goods lower skirt, the 3 alternate portraits, the lightning hands. You're like able to build that up as so much more of a deluxe figure to the line where these went from like back of the collection, if they fall off the shelf, okay, to being like these great like foreground pieces, which we're happy to display.
Yeah, you guys did a pretty good job on those.
Thank you.
I have to say.
So I'll go for a similar spin. Like, I'm not going to say any figure like is my least favorite because the guy who designed him is right here. But I will say Chopper, and here's the reason why. I know, surprising choice, right? You got to wait for the spin. So the figures, I know. It's just wait.
Waiting.
Cliffhanger. So it's a great figure. The reason I think it's my least favorite is because we've done Kanan, we've done Hera, we've done Sabine, then we did Ezra, and then Chopper was the same wave. Chopper was the second number, I think. We're still waiting for that last one. So we've said in the past publicly we're going to complete the Ghost Crew someday. So I think that's why I'll say Chopper's my least favorite, is because he's hinting at that one to come.
He's a tease.
Yeah, exactly. That's why.
Fair enough.
So,
Good teaser, though.
great figure. In fact, he's so good he teases so much. So.
And last question, maybe to finish, like, do you guys ever play with the miniatures, the figurines themselves when you have them on your shelf or your desk?
Oh, my office more
never
than,
get any work
than
done.
most. I happily display the entire figure assortment for all of Black Series.
Even that original Luke from 5 years ago?
Well, it's nice I got to replace him.
There you go.
So it's just, that's a gladly toss to the bin box. But absolutely. I mean, it's the only way we're going to continue to improve it is really sort of know where the line's been and sort of have that, look to the horizon in terms of where we're going to look to make it better. So
that's great. The Hasbro offices are an old Mr. Potato Head factory, and everyone's offices like have all these toys and proudly displayed and posed out. So it's a great part of the culture.
Yeah, I imagine. I'll try to visit you guys.
Exactly.
that would be great. Don't watch the shelf too much. Maybe you'll find
some missing items.
Yes. I guess Sylvain had a very last question, which was because he's a huge fan of Natalie Portman and
Emilia Clarke
and Clone Troopers.
Okay,
so I want Clone Troopers.
You want Clone Troopers? Okay, and which line?
In Black
Series. Okay.
And
ARC Troopers.
Yeah, ARC Troopers.
ARC Troopers.
Yes.
All right, Advanced Recon.
Maybe
Commandos.
Alpha, the first ARC Trooper.
All right. I am totally on board. I'm a huge fan of ARC Troopers, and definitely in terms of the characters that brought into the line, everything they did in terms of the story arc of being able to take characters like Fives, Echo, Heavy, and sort of bring them from cadet and sort of carry them all up out through the 501st, and sort of the influence that they had among all those other troopers. I think they got storylines.
Very good arc.
Huge arc.
Big story arc.
But it's I think it's a great recommendation. Definitely one we'd love to make happen at some point.
The blessing and curse we have is just because the Star Wars universe has been around so long. There's so many different areas we can do. Like, we want to finish the Ghost Crew. We want to, Rogue One, a movie beloved by Star Wars fan, considered part of the original trilogy by a lot of fans. We didn't do a lot of figures in that line because we went right to the 40th anniversary of Episode 4. So we want to build that out more. There are fans of the expanded universe.
Without the surgeon.
Exactly. We've just started doing more prequel characters, so there's a lot we want to do.
I really wish Lucasfilm would bring Clone Wars back so that we can put a little bit more emphasis on the importance.
Wait, what's that?
So we're looking forward for this 2020 announcement. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds great. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Have a nice day in Paris.
Thank you very much.